Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. You're in the right place, the perfect place, if you're looking for a wellness check-in team whose goal is to remind you to think about wellness and encourage you to make wellness a priority. It all stems from my book, Accidentally Well. Welcome to episode 31. A territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people. As part of a reconciliation process, we make our podcast from lands located within the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land. We are treaty people, responsible to honor the original caretakers and to serve as stewards for the land. You are with the Let's Be Well Together podcast, and it's John and Sammy.
Welcome back.
And we're back to the Sammy travel series. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know when we started doing this that you did travels, and I just think they're so important and they contribute so much. So I'd love to hear some of your stories. Mm-hmm. You said at one point that you went to India.
Yeah, I sure did.
So tell me a little bit about that. Where'd you start?
Yeah, so I went to India with a volunteer group, Operation Groundswell, outside of Toronto. It was really cool. We started in Delhi.
What was the objective of the...
Operation Groundswell?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Operation Groundswell, so a Toronto-based company. And unlike other volunteer companies, their whole niche, I guess, is to work with local organizations instead of coming in and being like, I know what you need us to teach you English, you need us to build you a school. Like, that's not always, it's never really a great way to come into a community and tell them what they need. Instead, Operation Groundswell is really amazing, and they reach out to different companies and they say, hey, I have a group of, 14 people here and we want to volunteer with you. What can we do? When can we come and meet you? So we traveled through Delhi just for a couple days. We went to Rishikesh, Dharamsala, and then back to Delhi, and then we left. And in each place, we volunteered with different companies. So in Delhi, we didn't really volunteer because it was more of just like a layover as we waited for other people. So we got to explore the city a lot. It's honestly hard to explain without going there and experiencing it, but it really is just like shoulder to shoulder people. And, we went through the markets, which was an amazing experience. And, then they have the tuk-tuks. And for anybody who doesn't know what a tuk-tuk is, it's like their cab system.
It's like almost. Little three-wheeled. Yeah,
three-wheeled, four-wheeled sometimes. And it's like, like on Toronto Island, how you have the bike and then there's a little cabin kind of behind it of like 4 people can sit. It's kind of like that. So you have someone that will come, you give them some money and they take you wherever you want to go. So those just go everywhere. Like there's no street system, which is, something like there are streets, just most of them are filled with people or animals or tuk-tuks. So it's not like if you're in a car, I can't even imagine trying to drive a car through the city. So yeah, it was very, very busy and just very interesting to see everybody and meet people. And that's really like, I feel like they put us in there right at the beginning to really like get the culture shock out.
Right.
And being like, here you go, throw you in. And then you get the culture shock in the first couple of days and then you're used to it. And then you're just like, this is just how the normal is here. And you kind of get over it.
Where'd you go from there?
Yeah. So then we went to Rishikesh. And this is where we volunteered with like a yoga.
Is that a big city too?
It is a big city. It's right on the Ganges. So there's a lot of like spiritual places that you can go, a lot of different ceremonies you can experience. It's a really amazing place and definitely less busy, which was nice. So we were there. And then we were also at an ashram for a couple days.
And what's an ashram?
Yeah, an ashram is where you basically go in and it's all about meditation, yoga, spiritual awakening kind of thing. So we did a lot of journaling, but phones, you literally cannot have your phone there. So they took our phones before we got in, and it was very much like kind of like a cleansing, just spiritual. Like you just go in, do a lot of meditation, do a lot of yoga classes, and just kind of be with yourself and like the nature. And it was really cool. And then we also got to explore the Beatles ashram. And the Beatles were there for however long, and they actually wrote one of their albums at this ashram. It's now abandoned, but there's a bunch of spray paint kind of everywhere of like John Lennon and all of them. And yeah, their quotes like "Let It Be." And it was really cool to see too. And I guess, yeah, they went there and they
I'm
wrote an
jealous.
entire album. Yeah, it was really awesome.
I grew up in the era of actual albums and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
And even though for the most, like they were a bit before my time, I was pretty young.
Yeah.
But there were albums that came out of the Beatles, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah.
It was just mind blowing. Like it was something like you'd never heard before.
Yeah,
it was,
were
and
whole new.
To me, they're timeless too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like a lot of people still think that, like my age too. Like I think everybody still really respects the Beatles and the type of music that they brought into like rock and roll, right? Like
in every era, there's certain music that you can tell is timeless.
Definitely.
That will always feel right and sound right.
And that reaches almost every part of the country, which is always amazing to see.
Yeah, and all kinds of countries, not just one country, but all around the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but you were telling me something about Mount Everest. So how do we get to Mount Everest?
Yes. So from Rishikesh, we went to Dharamsala.
Okay. And Dharamsala, is that another city?
Yes. So it's another city, and it's actually where the Dalai Lama's temple is.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got to visit that, which was really amazing. So that's typically where the Dalai Lama is. And he was there when we were there. And I asked one of the monks there if I could meet him. And they went in and checked. And then they came out and said he was too tired. So I was like, shoot, next time.
You gotta be kidding me.
I know. I was like, I'm here once, Dalai Lama.
Hey,
please.
would you mind coming out?
I know. But I guess he was traveling the night before and was really tired. So I get it. You know, he does a lot.
It's a really strange thing how they picked the Dalai Lama. And I think in his case, he was 6 or 7 or some really, really young age. And you're thinking, that's ridiculous.
I know.
It's just like they're just randomly. But then you see some of the things he's said over the years and they just resonate with you. And there's something special about him.
There really is. And there's something special about, you know, that whole temple too. Like you go and you see everybody there. It's just an entirely different experience. But that's for another time.
Sure.
So in Dharamsala, as I said, Operation Groundswell works with local organizations. So one of them we worked with was Waste Warriors, is what they are called. And basically what they did, they pick up trash on the way up the mountains of the Himalayas and on the way down. So
is this because of all the mountain climbers? And
yeah, there's a lot of garbage.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people will have their snacks. They'll bring, you know, like their granola bars, their, you know, coffee cups, anything like that. And they just...
Yeah, total aside, total distraction. When I do my marathons...
Yeah.
It really bothers me. A lot of people use gels and it's this little gel pack.
Right.
And it really bothers me, the ones who just throw it on the ground. It's
like,
how hard is it
I know.
to hold it and throw it in the garbage?
Yeah, just put it in your pocket, just put it in your backpack.
I digress.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. It is like frustrating to see, especially when you're in like such a beautiful like nature spot and there are garbages. Like there's garbages as you walk up. So people just have to hold on to it for a second.
And you'd think that how many of these people... Maybe I shouldn't talk like this because I don't know them, but how many of them are doing it because I climbed this mountain and I'm great?
Exactly.
Versus this mountain is amazing and I want to be a part of it and cherish it.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd throw your junk on the ground if that's the way it was.
I don't think so. I wouldn't.
Right.
You know, some people are just kind of careless and just think.
I pulled you aside.
No, that's okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, it was, so we worked with them and we had our trash cans, had our pickets and we're picking up, but then, you know, you get half up and then that's kind of where you stop because the altitude gets so high that you can't really carry it yourself, let alone a bag full of garbage. So basically we give them back to them and then they could take it back down the mountain. And then on our way down, they met us halfway again and then we started again. It was probably the most tough thing I've ever done. And I didn't even climb all the way up to Everest. We just climbed up a little part of the Himalayas. So yeah, so we get all the way up. And there was a couple times I was hiking and I thought I wasn't going to make it. I was like, felt like I was going to throw up. And, you know, we drove.
So you're getting altitude sickness in a sense.
Altitude sickness, yeah. And I didn't eat any breakfast. And it was because I wasn't feeling really well. Because the night before we were on like a 24-hour bus ride from Rishikesh to Dharamsala, and the bus was topsy-turvy and going around mountains.
You got seasick on a boat.
Exactly.
You got seasick on a bus.
Yeah. So I wasn't feeling my best, so I didn't eat breakfast. There was a little bit of that, and then there was a little bit of the altitude sickness. But once we got up there and we saw Everest right in front of us, and this is where we camped. So we were able to, you know, go to sleep looking at Everest, wake up looking at Everest. And It was like the most beautiful thing. Like to this day, again, I've traveled quite a bit. To this day, that is the most picture perfect thing I've ever seen, to the point of where I was like, I am pretty sure this is a backdrop. I'm pretty sure this can't be real.
It couldn't be real. It's too awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and it's just so, you see the photos of it and you're like, it can't actually look like that. But it really just looks like that. And you're just like so surprised. And it was a really nice moment because, you hike up this whole mountain and you're feeling terrible. Well, I was feeling terrible. And then you see like the end result and it just makes it all worth it.
And how many people were with you when you saw it?
I think there was about 10 of us in the group. Me and my friend, he stayed back with me. We were the last ones up, but it was, I think there was about 10 of us.
And could you feel any kind of shared experience, like looking at Everest?
I think so. Everybody was just kind of like quiet and we all just like stared, especially at night, because the snow that was reflecting off the mountain and the moon. And it was just like the night, like seeing it at night was just beautiful, and everybody was just staring at it. We had a couple drinks and just watching the mountain.
We live on an amazing planet with amazing things, and that's a great way to end on kind of an awe-inspiring moment. Definitely. Where a group of people got to see Everest for the first time.
Yeah.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds.
Today's interview is in the category of physical wellness, but also spiritual wellness. This is Sheila, and I'm with my sister, Laurie Flanagan, and we will have a chat about meditation. Laureen Rose is a high school teacher of the arts and religion for over 30 years. She's a dancer, a grandmother, and a mother. She is an avid yoga practitioner. She has a passion for writing and aspires to enrich, inspire, and encourage the imagination of children through the art of storytelling. In her work, storytelling is a major component of all her creation and teachings. She can be found at Instagram at author LR Flanagan. Welcome to the show, Laurie.
Thank you. Nice to
Laureen.
be here. Yeah.
I know her as Laurie, but as an author and a teacher, she goes by Laureen. And that's actually her name. So
yep, that's correct. Yep.
There are different ways to meditate, and people get different things from it. Don't worry about speaking for everyone. I'm only asking about you and your own experiences and how you approach it. How did you get started?
Okay. So meditation has been part of my life for a long time, I think. I think I've been meditating naturally my whole life.
Oh, that's good.
But the practice really started in 2017, approximately.
Okay.
And in 2017, I was finding myself burnt out. So exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted as a teacher. And I was at a breaking point where there was so many demands on me and my job and my energy that I couldn't meet all those demands. And in trying so hard to please other people, I had a complete breakdown. I can't describe it any more than my brain going black. That's how I explain it to people. And only negative thoughts. Everything, I just couldn't find a positive thought.
Right.
And in trying to find a positive thought, I would go into a panic attack.
Oh.
Because I couldn't find a positive thought. But I'm naturally a very positive person.
Yeah.
So it sent me spiraling into this very dark place. And sort of my whole world kind of fell down around me. And I couldn't keep it going anymore. I just kept having panic attack after panic attack. So that led me to a place where I could no longer do my job.
Right.
So I took a couple weeks off work.
Yeah.
And during that time, I couldn't handle any stimulation. Nothing. Not lights on. I couldn't do a yoga class. I couldn't be in
music, loud noise. Oh.
If I went to the mall, I would freeze up. I couldn't move. Just too much stimulation.
Like, what about driving?
Yeah, I couldn't drive. It took me about a week before I started going for a walk, like just leaving the house.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like shaking. So it was a really hard time in my life.
So what did you do? Like stay home and sleep?
Yeah. And I cried a lot, and panic attack after panic attack.
So you're just trying to cope.
Just trying to cope. Survival meant.
Yeah.
Survival really. So in that time, I started using breathing exercises to control my breathing.
Yes.
That was how it started. And then from there, I started reading Deepak Chopra, who's a spiritual advisor.
Okay.
And through his work and his meditation, I started to use his practices.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So then I would spend about 20 minutes at a time meditating in a very quiet, calm place for me. Lights were low, but I was in front of my window. I love windows. I love to sit in front of windows. So I'd sit in front of the window and meditate and try to bring my mind and my being grounded together in the moment that I'm in. So being aware of how I'm sitting, where I'm sitting, feeling the floor underneath me, feeling the air that's touching my skin, breathing in through the nose, feeling the muscles around the eyes, the ears, the throat. And then from there, just focusing on the breath and then letting the mind go. And then slowly, as the mind would let go, you can actually feel when you're under a lot of anxiety and stress, the brain feels really tight, like a muscle cramp. So as soon as you get into this sort of meditation and you kind of go down into this tunnel, the mind, you can feel it just open up and relax. And then it feels like there's space all of a sudden, in your mind. So Deepak, one of his arguments is that the only two true things are space and form, or form and space.
Oh, okay.
And people are obsessed with form. We're always comparing ourselves. Form causes us to compare, causes us to analyze, causes us to see things physically. Whereas when we focus on space, it alleviates that. It creates creativity. It allows us to be imaginative and create space in our life.
Cool.
So meditation does that. It makes us focus on space.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I was going to ask you, what are the benefits of meditating? The benefits that you have?
Yeah. So for me, the benefits really are just being calm, centered, focused, grounded. The longer I've been meditating, the more I'm able to keep it as a practice throughout my day.
Right.
So it allows me to not respond too quickly to someone else. If someone has said something that has kind of triggered something, it allows me to breathe and then respond to that. So I call that emotional regulation. So I would say for me, that's the biggest benefit of meditation is emotional regulation. But science has also shown the benefits of better focus, better concentration, more energy, more awareness, deeper thinking, making
For
better
sure,
connections.
you opened your mind,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get rid of that anxiety, the brain is capable of so much more.
Yes, I definitely believe that our mind is more capable of what we use it for.
Yeah. And once we get rid of all those things we can't control, then the mind is free to access itself.
Cool. And is there a time that you should meditate, or like that they say you should meditate, or is it just depending on when you have time?
So I think for everyone, their practice really has to fit into their own lifestyle.
Yes.
Just like fitness. But most meditation gurus or spiritual advisors will say to either meditate in the morning or in the evening. So depending on how your biorhythm is, some people will find meditation in the morning clears their thoughts. People sometimes wake up with anxiety. They're already nervous about their day before they've started it. So having meditation calms them down, allows them to focus on what they need to do right now, rather than all the things they need to do in the day.
Right.
Other people find them overwhelmed by the end of the day.
Yes.
And they need meditation to just sort of calm themselves, ground themselves, and then also thank themselves for the work that they did that day. Because some people can't even get up and get to work that day. But you've been able to do all of these things, and we often look at what we didn't get done.
Yes.
So meditation allows us to just be grateful that we were able to get through our day.
Wow.
Yeah, so morning and evening is what's recommended, but some people find meditation in the middle of the day, after lunch or before a big presentation. A lot of people will do meditation.
Do like a little meditation. Okay. And so let's go through a meditation practice that for you. When do you meditate?
Okay, so I tend to meditate at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but in the summer when I'm on holidays, then sometimes I'll meditate in the morning because I love the sunrise. It's my favorite time of day. So, but I will meditate before I go to bed, just so that my mind is relaxed and then I'm not racing while I'm sleeping or while I'm trying to fall asleep, thinking about things I need to do the next day. So what I like to do is meditate in front of my window in my main room. And I like it to be quiet. I don't use any music or anything. And I sit in a half lotus, which is when one leg is crossed over the other and your foot is on your thigh, kind of like crisscross applesauce.
Yes,
yeah,
but
you lift one foot up.
Yeah.
Some people can do full lotus, which is great. I can't, but some people can.
Yeah.
And then just being aware of the spine, the lengthening the spine. And then from there, my palms are open.
To the ceiling?
To the ceiling or to the universe. Allowing myself to receive whatever it is I need for the day, whether that is calm, whether it's gratitude, whether it's just patience, acceptance, love, whatever it is that I feel like I need, I ask for. And then I relax my eyes. So my first focus, before I even think about breathing, because a lot of people begin with breath, I begin with the eyes. My eyes are busy during the day, taking in a lot. So I have to shut my eyes down, focus on one spot, relax my eyelids and relax the muscles around my eyes. And then I go to the nose and the breath and the throat. So the throat is another point of tension for me. I hold a lot of tension in my throat. So once I can relax and open my throat, then I can breathe calmly through my nose. And then exhale through the mouth slowly, like you're blowing out a candle. So you want to try to keep that breath really even and long. And then inhale again. And try to do that 3 times, getting to the end of each breath. And then after that, allow your breath to just find its own regular pattern. And then maintaining my focus on one spot, I allow myself to relax and allow my thoughts to relax. And then I wait until all of the thoughts and worry have shifted to the outside, the periphery of my mind. And then I allow my center thought to be whatever it is that I'm asking for or that I need at that time. You know, as simple as I am loved, I am loved. That might be my mantra. I just choose my own mantra depending on where I am. Sometimes I'll choose a mantra that's for one of my students, knowing that one of my students is struggling. So my mantra will be for them or for a parent or for someone else, or it'll be for myself, or it'll be for a child, one of my kids, somebody else. Yeah, and then I'll put my alarm on for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, and my alarm will just do it. I have little chimes, and it'll chime after 20 minutes, and then I'll come out of it, shake my fingers, roll my shoulders, come out of it, and then I'll go do my bedtime routine. And usually I fall asleep pretty good if I do that first.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should all try that.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a certain age that you think people should start meditating or?
Yeah. So meditation has been brought into the schools recently, and a lot of teachers are starting to include it in their meditation or in their classrooms to keep the class sort of calm and to bring them back together and grounded and centered. I don't think there's an age that's too young to start meditation for emotional regulation. So 2-year-olds, anyone that has a 2-year-old and is listening to this, they know how difficult it is for 2-year-olds to regulate their emotions.
Yes.
So even teaching a 2-year-old to breathe with their fingers when they get mad or when they get angry, reminding them breathe, and then they count with their fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in doing that, they count with their fingers while they're doing it, making a fist and then closing their fist. They start to think about their hand. So that's the awareness piece. It takes the awareness from their thoughts and the spiral they're into to their hand and their numbers. And then it also teaches them that strategy of breath, which grounds them to this moment. Before you know it, they'll come out of their spiral. Yeah, and come back to this moment and then calm down. So the biggest advantage to teaching children meditation is emotional regulation, so that they can learn how to handle their emotions in a classroom.
Right.
We know that is one of the biggest things teachers are dealing with in elementary classrooms.
Yes.
Emotional regulation with 30 kids in a classroom.
Yes, and it is one of the main things I think for young kids to learn in school, right? Because they're with their parents and they're learning and they're developing. But when they go to school, it's that social, interaction that a lot of kids are not used to, and they have to try and deal with all that.
That's right. So before they hit the child, they stop and count, catch their breath, and then let's talk. So then they learn that strategy is the strategy before the response strategy.
And your book, Laurie did write a book.
I did.
And it is called
Where Do Dreams Come From?
And it is a book for children. It's a children's book, and her son was the illustrator.
Yeah.
So, and it has a little children's meditation at the end of the book. And the book is basically to help children
Use their imagination, foster imagination.
Yes, and yeah.
Yeah. So in the book, my youngest son that did the pictures, when he did the illustrations, he didn't create any faces. So we were, he was thinking non-specific to gender or non-specific to orientation or ethnicity. So all of the pictures are really form-based and not, and that's it, just the form, right? So allows the child to step into any of the pictures is the idea. But the meditation that's at the end is a meditation that you could do with your children and at bedtime. So often parents find themselves struggling at bedtime because they just want the kid to go to bed. So doing a meditation with your child at bed can be a bonding moment for both of you. So you calm down and then they calm down. And it's a lot easier to put a child to sleep when both of you are calm.
Well, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should check it out. But we are at the end. So the question that we ask every guest, it's the same 2 questions based on different facets and areas of wellness. It's like a mini wellness check-in of sorts. So the question is, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness? If so, what is the one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
Okay, so I had an opportunity to think about this before I got answered this question.
Because did you know that this was going to happen when you got here?
I thought it might happen.
Okay,
yes.
very good.
Yeah. So I've listened to enough of the podcast to know
that's
this is
good.
coming. Yeah. So I think the one area that I'm working on right now that fits in well with this is boundaries, creating more boundaries in my life. And I think boundaries are part of the social part of wellness, and as well the mental and physical.
Yeah.
When you're a person like me, you give a lot and you're very compassionate, and when you're a teacher and creative, you want to give all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long before you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then you have no energy left for yourself.
Yes.
So I'm working on creating some boundaries so that I can be more attentive to my own wellness,
right,
and not give that time away so easily to other people, because it's just as important. Your own
yeah,
wellness.
no, for sure. Yeah, that's excellent. I definitely need to work on that a little bit myself. So we will do that. And thank you so much for joining us. This has been wonderful.
You are welcome.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. I was working with one of my voice students this week, and he was having a difficult time raising his soft palate. That's a part of technique that we use to make resonant space to make sure that our notes sound round and warm, definitely not thin and shrill, which we don't want. So we were working on a pretty high note and in chest voice, and he was just having a hard time keeping it round. So I showed him this trick, and I call it the nose trick. I want to share it with you today because it's kind of fun, and even if you're not singing, it's still fun to experiment and explore some of the stuff that singers use and do. So maybe you could try it with me just for fun. The idea is that when we sing, we need to have our soft palate raised. And what does that mean? If you stick your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you'll feel that it's firm. This is the hard palate. Just behind that, where the uvula is, the little dangly punching bag looking thing, is the soft palate. And if a person yawns, it gets this sort of dopey sound in their voice, like Bullwinkle the Moose or Patrick Star, depending on your age. That's the soft palate being raised. Excessively in that case, but being raised. And when we sing, it's important that we do this a little bit so that we have resonant space. If we don't, things come out sounding thin and not very pleasant to listen to, right? And that brings us to what I call the nose trick. So maybe you could try this with me. The idea is we plug our nose and either say or sing something, listen to it, have a laugh, and then with our nose still plugged, try and make it sound as unplugged as we can. So, I'm going to plug my nose.
Here we go. You can hear that it's all plugged. Ha 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 ha. Right? And let's just do, gross. That's really gross.
But now, with my nose still plugged, Now I've unplugged my nose here. But that's the soft palate being raised. So I'm going to plug my nose again. We'll do a little A-B back and forth, and you'll hear the difference between the soft palate being relaxed and raised. Here we go. Nose is plugged.
The soft palate is not engaged. Versus,
The soft palate is engaged. My nose is still plugged. You can hear it when I say nose. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. The nose trick. Try it out. See if you can get that sound to be nice and warm and round with your nose plugged. And if you're singing stuff, it's a great trick. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
I'm taking a break from the typical Move That Body today to talk about overview. We usually talk about an activity we enjoy and how it makes us feel. More and more, we want to ask other people to tell us how they like to move and cover different activities. As we get new listeners, it's a good time to go back to basics. So what's this all about? Move That Body is at the heart of the message we're sharing in the podcast. If you take nothing else from our show, please hear that getting physical and moving that body, it's a real key to overall wellness. I can't overstate that. It's essential. And you can do it. It doesn't need to be intense, but you need to move that body regularly. My book motivated me to build our podcast team. We all bring something different, and for me, I'm exploring and developing the concepts I wrote about. The book is called Accidentally Well because I was struck by an unexpected discovery about wellness when I wasn't looking for it. And sure, it took a lot of work to turn that accident into a practical way forward. And that's what happened. I now see a clear path forward. I see realistic and achievable ways to work towards balance and fulfillment in life. And I describe that approach in my book. One of the main reasons I wrote it is to share my discoveries in case they can help other people. I feel strongly that knowledge should be shared. Sharing ideas is part of being well together. We can inspire and help each other. The podcast title means something. We're asking you and everyone to work together towards wellness. It gives us the best chance. That's why we say let's be well together. And the takeaway from my personal experience is that physical wellness is a key. In the past, my experience has often felt disconnected from my body. I lived most of my life without appreciating and respecting the extent to which I'm a physical being profoundly impacted by food and chemicals, physics and forces of nature. That's changed for me now. I appreciate and respect that now. Improving my physical wellness changed my life for the better, dramatically and in unexpected ways. Physical fitness unlocked understandings that were buried deep in my mind. I believe that's because human beings are designed to be physical. On episode 129 of the Marathon Talk podcast, Dr. Andrew Murray discussed how humans are designed to run and be active. He highlighted the importance of physical wellness in the context of challenges we face in the modern age. We evolved to run and be active, and we still have the bodies of hunters and gatherers. The body breaks down without physical activity. Thousands of years ago, humans got all the physical activity they needed in everyday life. However, few jobs today require us to be active, and lack of physical activity is creating a public health challenge. A small minority of people are lucky. They just naturally eat right and exercise regularly, maybe by instinct. But for the rest of us, physical wellness takes effort, focus, and discipline. You know I love philosophy, so let's go back to Socrates, who said to know the good is to do the good. In other words, people will do the right thing as soon as they recognize it's the right thing to do. Aristotle, who came later, disagreed. He argued that people need to build good habits to improve their willpower because doing the right thing can be difficult. Without willpower, you might not do the right thing even though you know it's the right thing to do. And being at a healthy weight is important to me. which means I need to buckle down and work on my willpower to achieve that objective. I gain weight when my willpower and discipline are weak, which unfortunately has been the last year or so. So as a personal directive, I've got to start getting more disciplined. It's just something I have to face and work on. And I'm trying, and I need to keep trying and work even harder. Exercise doesn't need to be grueling or intense to get its benefits. And someone who I like to read, Dr. Phil Maffetone, he debunked the no pain, no gain way of thinking in some of his books. For me, it didn't start out as intense exercise at all. It was going on comfortable walks, and that started a positive turnaround for me when I needed to lose weight. I like walking, especially in nature, and going on regular walks made me feel stronger and healthier. So I started losing weight and felt a bit lighter on my feet. For me, walking transitioned to jogging, which later turned to running. I started doing easy calisthenics, initially without weights, things like squats and lunges, and then added more core and strength training as I got fitter. I became capable of doing higher intensity exercise in time, but I still stuck with low intensity most of the time. I add the occasional higher intensity workout. And my approach to exercise, for me, is manageable and sustainable over the long term. Everything fell into place for me when I connected with my physical self. We talk about different categories of wellness and trade-offs we make between them on the podcast. But this is important. Whichever trade-offs I make, I commit to eating nutritious food in moderation. I commit to exercising and staying in touch with my physical nature. If you have an activity you like, even if we've talked about it, don't be shy about connecting with us. You can send us an email. All one word, Let's Be Well Together podcast @gmail.com, or you can message us on Facebook or Instagram. Let's.be.well.together. Let us know if we can interview about the physical activities that you enjoy and make you feel great. If you don't currently exercise, then get out there and move that body. Start slow. Find activities you enjoy, rather than ones that feel grueling. You deserve that great feeling that getting in shape brings. So we're going to keep coming back to this in the show, and we're going to keep focusing on Move That Body because it's really at the heart of things. We love our listeners, and it's great that you could join us. We could use your help. How? Listen to our episodes, subscribe to us, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram @lets.be.well.together, and make sure you tell your friends about us. There's a thought. Popped up while running. Albert Camus was a French philosopher, and when I'm looking at my Instagram feed, the way these algorithms work is if they see that there's something you like looking at, they'll throw more of it in your feeds. And one thing I regularly see in my feed are quotes from philosophers. I like quotes, as you know, like philosophy, so I'm not surprised somehow Instagram knows I like these quotes. And I saw one by Albert Camus, and it just really resonated with me. And so here's what he said. You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you're looking for the meaning of life. And that ties in with something that I've come to in both my running journey and hopefully someday in my wellness journey. And on the running side, I've mentioned that I tend to overthink things, and it's good and it's bad. So where it's really good is it took me quite a while to figure out kind of the right mechanics that work for me. I would read, I would watch YouTube videos, I would do all kinds of stuff, trying to figure out the correct way to run, because at times I wasn't feeling like I was smooth or flowing. And sure enough, over time, I did find a lot of techniques that worked for me, and that led to my running form check-in that I have. And when I'm out for a run and not feeling great, I can try and get myself back on track by repositioning my body, redoing stuff. But the best times when I'm running don't happen when I'm thinking like that. As I said in an earlier show, the best times are when I'm just out flowing and not really thinking about how to run. And my thinking on the whole wellness check-in side is I am thinking a lot about categories of wellness and activities and how to foster wellness. But that's all trying to set something up generally later down the road, which is I'm hoping it gets to the point where I don't really have to think about it. I'm hoping it gets to the point where I've spent enough time developing these activities or strengthening these categories, that I can just live my life without thinking about it. And that's where the real enjoyment is going to come in. What I love about Camus' quote, he says, you'll never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. Or you'll never live if you're looking for the meaning of life. And what I like about that is it's okay to start and think about it and turn your mind to how that might work. But at a certain point, you just have to live. You just have to enjoy. You just have to be in the moment. Like every time I've got a runner's high, which has only happened, I think twice for me, it wasn't when I was thinking about all this stuff. It's when I was living and running in the moment. It just happened. And maybe, just maybe, if I can work on this approach to wellness, at some point, I'll be living in the moment and I'll be high on life, let's say. And maybe as time goes by, that'll happen more than once. And maybe it'll linger a little bit longer. But I'm going to have to be living my life at the time, not thinking about how to live my life or what the meaning of life is. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
Not sure when this airs, but when it's being recorded, it is just a couple days before our 35th anniversary.
35 years.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so we don't have any plans on this flip side. We don't have any like structure. So we don't have any answers to everyone who says, what are your secrets? And we don't have any of that. We just decided we would talk about it.
Yeah. And when we got married, I didn't think of it in terms of time. Like it wasn't like when I got married, I'm like, oh, we're going to be together forever. I mean, you do think that, but forever didn't really have a time to me. It just was like a journey more. And now that we're getting up there in time, it's like 35 years. Like that's a lot.
That's crazy. So
A lot of stuff happened in 35 years.
So my parents celebrated their 25th anniversary the same year we got married.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was thinking to myself, whoa, wow. By the time we celebrate our 25th anniversary, we'll be a bit older. But, if I were to think of how old would you be when you celebrate your 35th anniversary?
Like walking with a cane.
I'd be like gray hair and like
retired.
I don't feel anything like that.
No, and I don't think we look anything like that either. Like I'm hoping that we look young, but
It's a nice hope.
Yeah, but I feel young.
Yeah, well, forget about what we look like. I do not feel like someone who has been married 35 years in the sense that like I still feel like I'm not a teenager. Everyone says that, right? You talk to older people and they're
they
like,
feel young. Yeah.
I still feel like I did when I was 20.
Yeah.
And I kind of still do. Like in my head, I still have that life force going around.
But there are a few things we can talk about in the 35 years of marriage, and that's
there's many, but
many.
What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking of our first anniversary. We were living in Montreal.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we decided that we actually went to this Chinese restaurant, and I used to love the Chinese buffets for some reason.
Yeah, it wasn't a fancy Chinese restaurant, but
No.
we really enjoyed the night.
Yeah. So we decided that we were going to make that a tradition, and we were going to go every year. And the next year we go
It's our tradition. And even if we move out of the city, we're going to come back and
to
go
Montreal and go to
this little Chinese restaurant.
So we go back the next year.
There's no Chinese restaurant.
It's closed. We were like, oh no, is this foretell anything?
Maybe, I don't know. Having said that though, like one really magical moment from history is our 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was great.
It's another story, but we had our reception when we actually got married. We were younger, not a lot of money. We had a beautiful, enjoyable, but kind of basic.
Well, not only that,
reception.
I don't know how much involvement you had, but I had like zero involvement in organizing my wedding. So I really wanted for our 25th for it to be what I wanted it to be. So
Yeah, and the story about why not is for another day. But
Yeah.
Sheila was living in Montreal and we
Yeah.
were planning it here in Kitchener.
Exactly. So
So you never got a chance to really plan stuff.
Yeah, so because I wasn't there. So I really wanted to plan this 25th. I wanted to be everything that I wanted, and it was.
I started
amazing.
I resisted it for a little while. At the time, we lived on a large property with lots of space, and Sheila was talking about getting this big tent, like almost like you'd see in a movie,
Yeah.
right? Like this big yard party.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Like I
Yeah,
can't
it
believe
was-
how everything turned out according to plan.
Yeah.
We had such a great time, and I almost feel like I was in a movie when I look back on that.
Yeah,
day.
it was really cool because a few things happened that, we were like, oh no, this is horrible. Like the band that we were going to have play canceled on us like
Right.
a few weeks before. And we were
Because
like,
they got an actual gig
because they got an actual gig. Yeah.
instead of a friend's gig.
So you can't be like upset about that. They're actually getting paid
Yeah.
instead of coming and playing. So I was like, oh my gosh. And we ended up finding a band that was so great.
Yeah, I found a cover band online.
Yeah. And also we were going to a party at John's work just maybe a month before our anniversary. And this cartoonist was there. Is that what you call them? A caricature. And he was amazing. So we asked him to come to our anniversary.
Which turned out to be one of the most popular things of the whole night.
People loved it. Yeah.
People waited until
absolutely.
the end of the night
Yeah.
until they stopped.
Yeah. So that was really great. So just things came together, you know?
Yeah,
It was
I mean-
a lot of fun.
So there's been highlights and a couple things that went sideways, like our famous first anniversary.
Yeah.
Well, at least we don't have to go back to Montreal every year now.
That's true. I don't know what we were thinking. Like we were going to live in Montreal for the rest of our lives. Like that's the thing about being young. You don't really think 35 years.
Yeah, but
you
the
know,
main
in
thing for me
advance.
is I just keep scratching my head, being going like, "What? This seems weird." Like, if you meet me and you're like, "Yep, that guy looks like he's been married 35, old and grizzly," just keep that thought to yourself, because in my head, I'm thinking, "Look at this vibrant 25-year-old," which is, I know, not the way it comes across.
Yeah.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
So it's sign off time. This is Sheila and I'm here with John and Sammy.
Hey.
I had a really busy week this week, but it was fun. We went out on Friday night, met a few of our friends that we haven't seen in a long time. So that was nice. And then on Saturday, I did a wedding. Plus I worked 50 hours last week. So it was a really busy week for me, but the highlight was definitely Sunday. We had our kids over and we did play spoons and it worked out really well, Sammy. There was 12 of us, which is nice because it's a game that you can play with a lot of people. 2 of them don't speak English very well. So John's brother, George, is married to someone from Thailand named Ning. And her daughter is also here, who doesn't speak English at all. So it's a game that you can play. You don't have to talk, so it's pretty simple. Yeah. So they had a really good time doing that. And we saw our kids and it was a great time. And the weather was fabulous this weekend. Yeah. So that's really great. And of course, the long weekend's coming up. So that's exciting. And what do you have going on, John?
Okay, it is a good news, bad news situation. I'll start with the bad news. So one thing I do when I'm training for my marathon is I don't have a goal time when I start the training. I wait to see how the training goes. And then as I get closer and closer to the day of the marathon, that's when I'm like, okay, I should know now how it's going to go. And it's not going to go well. So between... there's still something a little off with my lungs since I got COVID. I never did lose the weight that I should have lost. And somehow I found myself like doing less core and strength exercise in the last 2 months than I've done in like a year. So I've put myself in the worst shape at the wrong time. But the good news is I'm going to have a great time. I've just got to readjust my finish time. And so I've done that. And on the good news side, wow, what an amazing piece of luck I got last week. I was interviewed on 570 City News, which is a local radio station, by Mike Farwell about my book and the podcast. And first of all, it was great. I just thought he did an amazing job, and I really appreciate that. And then they did a little teeny write-up, and that went out. And we have people talking about us. So hopefully that sprouts some interest. And it's just been generally really exciting. It was received well, and I appreciate what I've been hearing from people.
Yeah, it went really well. And hopefully we have new listeners today.
That's
so
right.
welcome
Yeah.
if you're new. Yeah.
So if you're new, and especially if you heard the Mike Farwell show and that's why you're here, thanks for joining us, and we hope you like it. So how about you, Sammy?
Yeah, so I had a very busy week with a lot of painting.
Yes.
Lots of painting going on. You guys were by on Saturday, which is awesome to help us paint. We had a whole crew.
Yeah.
So it went by so fast, which was really nice. But I didn't realize how exhausting it is.
So exhausting.
Yeah, so tired. Like yesterday, we were both in bed by 9. Like we were exhausted, our bodies, minds, hands. My hands kept cramping from doing the trim and everything. So
Yeah, the other thing, like the thing that gets me too is it's all in my head, but you're doing the polyfill and you're sanding it, and it's almost like you're not breathing properly, and that makes you tired. Like everything just seems to make you more tired.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like you're trying to see every imperfection on the wall. So it's like just mentally like, where's this bump? Okay, did I sand it? Did I sand it too much? Do we have to mud now? And all of that stuff. So it's a whole thing, but it does feel really nice because it makes it feel more like our own, and it's, our work. And there may be some imperfections here or there, but, at least we can only blame ourselves.
Well, and not only that, there's always imperfections.
And not only that,
Yeah.
that's such a small part. Like, it's looking amazing, Sammy. We're just so excited for you, and it's really coming together. I can't wait to see when you get, because I know you're a bit of a designer, so I can't wait to see those touches when it gets even more and more done.
Mm-hmm. So how far along are you now?
Well, we have painted all 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Wow, great.
But they were very bright colors. So we'll have to do a second coat for those ones. And then, the main floor is pretty much done, other than like appliances are getting installed this week. The rest of our flooring, backsplash, all of like the final touches will be this week. And then we'll be tackling trim and everything, hopefully the second week. And hopefully we'll be moving in mid-September. You never know. Might be earlier, might be later. We're just kind of going with it and seeing what's happening. But yeah, very exciting. And we finally bought a couch this weekend. So we officially have somewhere where people can sit.
Yay!
You can picture yourself lounging on it.
Yeah, because you finally get the house, then you get it renovated, and then you got nothing to put in it.
I know. It's like everybody's going to have to bring their own chair at a house one.
Yeah.
But me and David were talking, we were saying that once everything's done, we're just going to have like this sense of like euphoria of just like relaxed, hopefully feeling of like, okay, finally everything's done. We can sleep on our new couch.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. That's what we did this week, and we look forward to talking to everybody next week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.